Okay, so this little tutorial is going to help you work through the map reading lab that you're going to do in Module 2. Now, how that's going to work is when you go to the modules page here, you know that the lecture material is going to be over the Earth's interior. The lab is not going to match up this week, but after that, everything matches up. The lecture and the lab are identical. Kind of need you to learn a little bit about map reading because we use it when we look at other hazards in the future and in other labs. So this one has some stops you'll have to make because this is where you're going to learn about how to read topographic maps and geologic maps. So we're cramming it all together in one lab. So if you have some experience with that, you can kind of breeze through here, but of course you have to view these in order to get to this lab. There's some videos, tutorials just in here to help you understand how to read a topo map and how to read a geologic map. Now, once you have that skill or skills under your belt, you'll come here to the lab itself and begin the lab. And what we're going to do in the lab is at the very beginning, we're going to focus on topographic maps. And so you're going to use just this topographic map that's embedded in the lab itself to answer questions about how to read it. And so what you hopefully learned in the previous pages was what all these brown squiggly lines mean. Those are contour lines. They represent points of equal elevation. They do have some numbers embedded in them at times. Not all of them do, but some. And that tells you feet above sea level. And so you want to know what's called contour interval is on this map, and it varies from topographic map to topographic map. So you want to learn that in the previous pages. You also learn about what's the difference when lines are really close together as opposed to far apart. And then you'll also learn about how to make what's called a profile. Is that if you were to hike along this line here, what would the elevation change look like? Would you go up? Would you go down? Would you be flat? So these are the things we'll want you to answer in the quiz. And because you've looked at the previous material, should be a piece of cake, right? So you'll answer those questions about contour intervals, about elevation points. And then down here we talked about you'll look at a profile. And so that is what it kind of looks like along that hiking line we talked about. And then, so that's what's going to be the topo portion. So it's kind of fast and furious. And then we're going to talk about geologic maps. Same thing, that information is in the previous pages. But basically, a geologic map is a topographic map that we've added additional information to. In this case, we've overlain onto the topos where the rocks are at the surface, exposed at the surface. And we use colors and symbols to help designate where these rocks are exposed on the surface of the earth. The other thing that can be related in a geologic map is that not just colors, but we use symbols to indicate what rocks are exposed there. And you can get two things from the symbol: the age of the rock and the type of rock. So every geologic map has an explanation or a legend or a key, whatever you want to call it, that will go through and describe the rocks in more detail. But very quickly, if you look at the symbol is always written in such a way that the capital letter, which is the first letter of the symbol, is representing this age here, this geologic age. And so if there is a T before the next letter, so usually symbols are just two letters, like it might be capital TR. T would stand for the word tertiary. And if you were asked for the geologic age of that rock, it would be tertiary. Or if it was a P, the first letter of the symbol, a capital P, that would indicate it is Permian in age. That is the geologic name. The time period it represents is right here. So the numeric age, and MA means millions of years. So if you have a Permian rock, it is between 251 and 299 million years old. So there's a range there that you're going to see. Now you're not, of course, expected to memorize this chart, but you're expected to be able to use it. So if you look at a geologic map, then you can determine what the letters indicate by using this chart. The geologic age is just the name here, and the numeric age is the range associated with that name. So there'll be some questions about that. What do these letters mean? And then, of course, in order to practice some of that, we want you to use a map. So you're going to use this Paulden map, which I used previously to kind of walk you through how to read a geologic map. And so you can open it either in an Adobe Acrobat. It'll open in, of course, just a web browser. So here it is in a web browser. You will learn to have multiple tabs, is always useful. Multiple screens is even better if you can make that happen. But here is the downloaded Paulden map. And so, of course, this is just to give you an overview. Here's the map itself. Here's the key or the legend. Here's the scales down here and some information about when it was created. And there's actually something called a cross section, a side view of what the geology might look like there. And then there's, of course, a general description of the area, the name, and all that kind of stuff. In order to answer some of these questions, we'll just have to zoom in. So as we zoom in on the map, then we can actually read some things, which is nice. And then we'll just have to move around. So here is that legend or the key that I was telling you about. And you'll have learned this from the previous section on geologic maps, but usually the order of the rocks here is in a specific order. It's usually always the youngest is at the top and the oldest is always at the bottom. And so that's nice because if you're asked a question about that, you'll know where to look for that. In addition, you can see there's a capital letter. Each of these is associated with that time scale we just looked at. And so the P is for Permian. So we know the geologic age is Permian. If someone said, but what is the numeric age? Well, we could just jump back here and go up to our little thing and say, oh, here's the numeric age right here. Okay, so you're going to look at the Paulden map and you're going to answer these questions about contour interval, about scale, right? So you have to look around your map to find those things. So the cross section is here. There's some scale information here. We can zoom in some more. You can't see things very clearly. It might ask you about rock types, like what type of rock is exposed in a certain area. You can read about that. The name is here in bold, and of course the symbol. So if we were to ask, what is exposed at a certain location, let's say in the upper left-hand side, here's Black Mesa, what rocks are exposed there? Well, it's blue and it has this MR. So I'm going to go find that in my explanation. And then I can tell you the name. Redwall limestone is the name. The M stands for Mississippian. That's the geologic age. And if I need the numeric age, I could look it up on the chart. Or sometimes they give you some ages in the descriptions, but not always. If they give you a specific age range in the description here, that is usually more accurate than the very general age that you could get from the chart. All right, so this is you learning about geologic maps. So here's a bunch of questions that you can answer regarding the Paulden map. Then we're going to move on to the geologic map of Arizona. Now, it's a little bulky and hard to sometimes fit in the screen here, so we're going to do it in two pieces. We're going to first look at what's called the explanation of units. This is the key that's associated with the Arizona geologic map. So it explains all the rocks that are exposed in Arizona. And so what that is, if you click here, it'll open a new tab, and it looks something like this. This is a tab that you were shown prior to starting the lab. And it is set up like all explanations, young at the top, old at the bottom. It still has the symbols here, right? The capital letter is the geologic age. Usually the second letter or letters is a description of either the rock type or a location where the rock was first described. So for the next couple questions, you're just going to use this explanation of units. So some of the symbols, what do they mean? Some of the ages. So you're going to jump to this key here that's related to the Arizona geologic map, and you're going to move through and answer those questions related to that explanation. So some is just what are they described as, what are their symbols, what are their ages. When you get to some questions like this that want to know rock type, you're going to have to basically find these four on the explanation, right? So if we come over here, we want to know which one of these has volcanoes. JM, I could start there and I could say, where the heck is JM? So oh, there it is. And I read through here. There's no volcanoes, then this isn't the one. And then I'll want to go visit these other 3 to see which one has volcanoes in a description, and that's how I'll know what it is. So the same thing with some other terms, sedimentary basin and things like that. Also, you know, what symbols refer to this type of material, the petrified forest. Same thing, just go to these symbols and you can look up and read the description. It'll help you identify it. Finally, oh my lord, you're going to use a little Google Earth. Okay, so the geologic map here is going to be imported. This is the KMZ file. You're going to download it and open it in Google Earth, and then you're going to answer the questions about it. So when you open it in Google Earth, it's going to look something like this. The file over here says Arizona Geologic Map.kmz. You'll need to expand it. You click this little arrow here and it'll expand it so you have more information here. Okay, so this file contains the colored map and then a bunch of place marks that you're going to go visit to help you answer the questions. So it loads like this, so it's kind of at an angle. If you come over here and you hold this down, it'll basically flatten it out so you're looking straight down, which is much easier. And then you can move it into your view here, make it a little, whoops, wrong way, a little smaller so you can see. And basically what you're going to do here is you're going to jump around to these locations and answer the questions. So if it asks a question about rock type, like here's the Tempe Butte. So what's the age of that? Well, let's go find out. So I go to my Google Earth here. I look in my list of place marks and I see Tempe Butte. I double click it, it's going to fly me there. Okay, and so you're going to be able to see where Tempe Butte is. Here it is here. I clicked it to stop it from continuing to zoom in. And so I can just click once on any color here and it'll give me a description. Ages, rock types, things like that. So you'll want to use this information to answer those questions. If you really want to see what it looks like without the overlay of the geologic map, you can uncheck it right here. And there's Tempe Butte by ASU. And then you can recheck it and you're back to this view. Okay? And then you're going to end up doing that. So you just have a handful of those to do and you're done. So it is a little hefty in the amount of work you have to do. You're going to be doing topos, then you're doing a couple different geologics. So, but this last part here is just clicking on those place marks to take you to where I'm asking you to go. And then remember, you can click on the color of the overlaid geologic map, and that'll pop up and give you a description of rock types and ages, both geologic and numeric, and you can answer those questions. Okay. So hopefully that works out okay for you. If you run into some issues, please let me know. And the only issue maybe is the KMZ file, but this is a new one, so it's a lot smaller and it should be a little easier for you to download and use within Google Earth. All right, get in touch with me if you have questions, and good luck.